Hi, it's Kyle and Julie again.
Welcome to the third session of Couple Talk called Expressing Yourself.
Anyone who knows me knows that I like to talk. When I was 18 months old, I was already speaking in full sentences, and I really have never stopped talking since.
She's got the gift of gab, a regular chatterbox. Sir talks a lot. A real motor mouth. A chatty Cathy.
Really?
Well, hang on, I'm just reading the cue cards. There's one more. Jabberjaws Julie.
Oh my gosh, are you done?
Yeah.
As I was saying, I'm known for being a bit of a talker. And when I attended this session of Couple Talk, I thought, I got this. Expressing yourself, this expert talker could have taught that one. But I realized fairly quickly that I was a rookie at expressing myself.
Julie has no problem talking when things are good or discussing things that she's interested in or even passionate about. And when she's angry or frustrated or had concerns about something, she didn't even have a problem talking then either.
Yup. In those times, the words came out fast and furious. Not only did I get a little more intense, but I started talking faster and faster, and it was hard for Kyle to keep up. I could tell he wanted to run for cover.
Poor Kyle.
This session really helped Jabberjaws Julie, and I'm guessing that it will help many of you.
Here is Don and Alex with today's session, Expressing Yourself.
Welcome to session 3.
Now, sessions 1 and 2 were trading places and listening fully. And that kind of listening with empathy can transform your relationship. And we will continue to use that listening skill in the rest of Couple Talk. But this session, we're turning to something different.
This session we'll talk about the way we express ourselves.
I want Dawn to see my point of view and see things my way, right? And if you think about the perspectives exercise that we did in the very first session, I am wanting him to turn around and look at my point of view, to look at over my shoulder. But if I attack him and say, you know, it's all your fault and you've done this wrong and that wrong, is he going to want to turn and look over my shoulder? No. So I need to express myself in a way that makes him want to turn and look at my point of view and see and feel things my way. And that's what expressing yourself can do. Help draw your partner to really more fully understand you. And there's a proverb that relates to this. It is, kind words heal and help. Cutting words wound and maim.
And in the Psalms, David said, "Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips." And the way we express can get us in a lot of trouble.
Right.
I know.
Right, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Sometimes some of us get into attack mode, and I'll tell you that an example from our early marriage. We had been married only a few months, and I had traveled to the East Coast. I was going back to visit family. There were no cell phones at the time, so Don dropped me off at the airport, and then he said, "Oh, I'll call you." And so I arrived, and that day I didn't get a call. And another day went by, and I didn't get a call. And the third day went by, and finally, that evening, he called. And I remember because my sister answered the phone, and I heard her say, "Oh, hi, Don. Boy, are you in trouble." And was he? What he was met with was something like this. "Oh, so you finally remembered you have a wife?"
Well, no, that's not what it was.
"It's been 3 days? You don't even care that I might have not even gotten to my relatives? 3 days? I mean, we're married 3 months and you don't even want to know what's going on with me, visiting my friends and relatives?"
I want to know what's going on. We've been working a lot of hours. And
Oh, yeah. Work comes first. You can remember you have a job. You just can't remember you have a wife. And if this is how it's going to be 3 months after we get married, I mean, this is looking really good for the rest of our lives, I'm telling you. And if you think that I'm going to give you any kind of attention when I get back, well, we'll see about that. If you even remember to pick me up from the airport. Yeah, that was me. That was me. So now you wondered why Don thought he had made the biggest mistake of his life? You get a little picture there. Yeah. So that's the way we can sometimes get into trouble in terms of getting into attack mode, or kind of not really talking fully and expressing ourselves in detail. And even we can get into trouble now with new technology, with text messaging. I heard an example recently of a woman who texted her husband and said, can you pick up milk, on the way home? He texted the word fine back. When he got home with the milk, she was saying, well, you didn't have to be so snotty about it. And he said, what did I do? I texted fine and I've got the milk. And she said, you did it in all caps. You didn't have to be so aggressive about it. And that's the kind of thing that can happen. We express ourselves, we think we're doing a good job, and our partner misunderstands. So this session is on helping you really kind of clear up what it is that you really want to say and craft it so that your partner is really going to understand you better, not overreact. There won't be those kinds of misunderstandings.
And the goal is that each of us would be able to express ourselves fully and honestly, but in a way that gets connection, not damage. Remember those core values, being open and honest, but doing it with care and compassion. So that's where we're going.
Right, so turn in your workbooks, and we're going to begin with the guidelines for expressing yourself. And we'll stop along the way to practice some of these guidelines. So the first step is a preparation step. Think before you speak. Now, what should you think about? What we often do is when we have an issue, we think about our complaint about the issue and our hurt and our anger. For example, when we were on our when we were celebrating our first anniversary, I got ready by doing what you're supposed to do for an anniversary. I made Don a homemade gift. It was a plaque that I varnished. I had handwritten our wedding vows on it and took a wedding picture, and I put it all together, and I crafted it as well as I could and put it in wrapping paper. And on our anniversary trip, we had gone camping. At that special moment, I handed it to him, and he opened it up, and that was about it. There was nothing in return. So I realized I wasn't getting an anniversary gift. Well, I did get one. He caught me a trout in the stream, right?
Yeah, and we forgot to bring a frying pan, so we had to cook it in my hubcap from my truck.
So I got a trout, he got a handmade anniversary gift. Now, if I decide to think about that, which back then I wasn't skilled, and that's all I thought about was, how could he be so uncaring? Even for our first anniversary, he couldn't even get me a gift. How inconsiderate, and all of that. If I start thinking only about that, how am I going to end up expressing myself? As soon as I start talking, it's going to be an attack. So what should I think about? In your workbook, it says what you should be thinking about. What's good about your partner's point of view? So try to turn to think about what's good about your partner's point of view. Practice empathy. See it from their point of view. So for example, if I stepped into Don's world, well, what's good about his point of view is he didn't have to rush around and buy a gift for me. He's not a materialistic kind of guy. So he isn't materialistic, let's say. So trying to step into your partner's point of view and see something good about it. Now, what happens if that's a very difficult step to do because it's a very difficult issue? Well, how about focusing in on what is good about your partner overall or your relationship, something from your past that you appreciate about your partner. There's a verse in Philippians that says, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right about your spouse, whatever is pure about your spouse, whatever is lovely about your spouse, whatever is admirable about your spouse, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy about your spouse, think about such things. So if we really kind of take a step back and practice that, take that in and focus in on the good that we see in our partner and about our relationship, That's the way that we can get ourselves prepared to express the truth in love. So on this page, there's a list of what might be good about your partner or your relationship, such as they're willing to listen to your point of view, they care about you and your relationship, they're willing to work out issues, there's positive character qualities in your spouse, maybe related to the issue or not, you have the shared history, you have shared values and goals and dreams. Now we're ready to begin expressing. And how do you do that? Well, the first guideline says, when you begin expressing yourself out loud, start by telling your partner what's good. Now, this isn't just a simple compliment. It's putting this problem in a bigger perspective. It's focusing on the good beneath the problem, the good that your partner likely sees from his or her point of view. It sounds something like, well, when I think about that issue, that disagreement, a good that I can see from your point of view is that you weren't materialistic about our anniversary gift, and you didn't feel like you had to be given a gift. You're not into material things. So that's a powerful way to connect in a disagreement. And if the issue is so deep or disconnecting, then start with something good overall. I appreciate that you're here and willing to listen to me. I appreciate that in the past we've worked out issues that have been resolved well for both of us. Or I appreciate that you made an effort to catch a trout for our anniversary gift. That was effort.
Yeah. I did that for you.
So the final subpoint is express positives all through your message, not just to begin. So whenever they come to mind, make sure you say them out loud.
So now we'll practice finding good in each other's position, trading places long enough to find out what's good. For example, whether to keep the porch light on or off at night.
So let's say I want to have it on.
And I would rather have it off.
Right. So I would like that porch light on all night. What might be good about this position, this point of view, that I would like to have it on all night? Why would I want to do that? Yeah.
For safety reasons?
Yeah, so for safety reasons. So I am interested in safety.
And if I want to have it off, what's the good in my perspective that I want to have it off?
Saving money on the electric bill?
Yeah, save some money, right.
So the way it sounds is, the way we would begin is, when I think about this issue that has to do with the porch light, from your point of view, I see that you want to save electricity, and that means something to you. You're careful about the budget, and you want to save on electricity.
And a good I see in your point of view on this is that having the light on would give us extra security, and you'd feel safe.
Right, right. So that's an example of how we name the good in our partner's point of view, okay?
One of our toughest times that we had was when we had teenage kids. And Alex and I disciplined in different ways. She was more likely to be watching them close and
checking emails, listening in on things. I was really desperate to keep them safe. I really was. And so I was doing whatever I could do to keep them out of harm's way.
And I saw it a little differently. I just figured that was adolescence when, we all kind of sow our wild oats or whatever. And I wanted to deal with things as it came up, but I didn't want to really get too invasive. And we conflicted quite a bit about that.
So we ended up like this, and in a very different points of view. But what we had to do was kind of look at it from each other's point of view. And as I looked at it from Don's point of view, I could see that one of the really wonderful things about it was when he made decisions about disciplining our children, he didn't have to take them back. They weren't these quick decisions. He was getting a good broad overview of what was going on, and when he made a decision about it, he didn't have to retract it. So they were well thought out.
And for her, I could see that even though I thought she was going too strong, that I knew that she was doing it because she desperately loves our kids. And she was really wanting to protect them and care for them and help them, and her motivations were stellar.
And that's what got us through that really difficult phase. Too many years, I wish it wasn't so long, but it got us through that difficult phase of really having different points of view and wanting to do something different, but having to come together and work together by us naming each other's point of view, the good in each other's point of view.
So let's go into your workbook to where you'll see a good I see in your position, finances. It's a common issue. Often couples will have different ways of handling finances, and it can be a friction point. So the goal here is to identify good aspects of your partner's point of view about finances. So ladies, let's just imagine that you are a saver. Okay? It can be men or women, can be either of these positions, but we're just going to assign it for this exercise. Ladies are the saver, men, you're the spender. Okay? We'd like you to finish out in your workbook the example below. Just use one of your workbooks. You can share together in a single workbook for this exercise. And we want you to find one or more good about the other person's position. So ladies, if you're the saver, then your job is to find something good about him being a spender. And of course, the opposite is true for you men. And you'll write that in your workbook in the spot provided.
So let's have you use the women's workbook. So men, you can put your workbook aside because you're filling out the chart together. So let's have everyone use the women's workbook.
Then, after you've filled that in, you will each make just a short statement. Ladies, you'll say, a good I see in your spender position is, and then you'll name it and tell them what that is. And of course, gentlemen, you'll do the same thing for her, a good in her position. All right, we'll give you 2 minutes for this quick exercise, finding the good in a difference about finances. Ready, go.
There's 1 minute left.
Turn back to the video. We're getting ready to start.
Okay. So we'd like to find out, ladies, what was the good you found in his position?
Sarah?
A spender might have more of a willingness to take risks.
Yeah.
So there's something good about that.
Yeah, more of a risk taker, probably entrepreneurial, that sort of thing.
So fellas, how about what's a good in the saver point of view? All right, you're nodding your head?
Yeah, similar is a saver is more willing to wait for a good time to spend rather than just going out and buying it when it's less impulsive. It's more of a well thought out plan.
Right, so planning, self-control in some way. Yeah, great.
All right, so you get it. The idea there is you have a difference about how you're going to handle money, but start by identifying something positive in the other person's point of view. Now it's your turn to practice with a topic from your relationship that you'll choose. Turn in your workbook to exercise a good I see in your position, our disagreement. The purpose of this exercise is to practice identifying good aspects of your partner's view when you disagree. So together you will decide on a small disagreement that one of you wrote on your topic list or that you choose right now. Work together to fill out one chart. Go ahead and use the ladies' workbook again. She will write what's good about his position in this disagreement, and he will write what's good about her position. And you'll fill out the same chart together.
Then you'll name what's good about your partner's position out loud. And we really need practice at admitting this to our partner. And it is a great way to train our brains to get into the habit of saying this out loud. It'll help you, again, when you express yourself about your own point of view. So she'll say, when I think about our disagreement, a good I see in your position is, and name it out loud. And he'll say the same thing. Now, if you can't identify a small difference or disagreement, there is a list in the workbook. We don't want you to choose a major disagreement topic. And what you'll do is look over that list and see if any resonate with you, and choose that particular topic, and then fill out the chart together. And then what we did was provide some answers about goods in each position in the back of the book, and you can check those answers if you're stuck. For instance, one of you might be more organized and the other less organized. Somebody's got to get everywhere early, another one doesn't mind being late. How about Facebook? Let's post it all. Let's keep it all private. Those are some examples. So we'll give you some time to do this, and if you're finished, then go ahead and use the man's workbook and fill out another chart using another topic.
Okay. We'll give you some time now. We'll let you know when we're halfway through and when there's a minute left, and then again when it's time to come back together. Ready, go.
Go ahead and talk to your partner.
You're halfway there.
This is the final minute, so begin wrapping it up.
Turn back towards Don and Alex. They're getting ready to start up again.
Okay, how was that for you? In your own workbook, we'd like you to look at the bar graph and mark how easy or difficult that was for you to find a good in a position that is different from yours. So we'll give you just a few moments to do that.
On your own, complete the quick debrief.
So now we'd like to hear from you. How easy or difficult was it to do this? Andy's nodding his head.
I was able to get through it. It was kind of hard for me to find good points. I had to kind of step in her shoes a little bit, maybe use some of the things we were learning throughout the other sessions. And it took me a while to get into her mindset, and it was just something I was able to feel like just barely squeak through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But you did it. Great, yeah.
That's right. Others?
Yeah, it was actually pretty easy for us, something we've talked about. But what if it's an issue where I can't find any good in her viewpoint?
Well, one of the important points to remember is if you're naming something good in your partner's position, it doesn't mean you agree with them, right? So that's one thing to kind of remember. That might relieve you a little so that you can kind of find the good in their position and think through it a little bit more quickly. For example, if one of you is a vegan and the other person loves junk food, for the person who's vegan to kind of look at that point of view from their partner's perspective doesn't mean that they agree with it. So the person who's a vegan can say, I still am abiding by my principles, but from your point of view, you like fast food because it's quick and it's cheap and you like the taste. That doesn't mean if I were the vegan that I like it or I want to do it. I'm just acknowledging why they do it and what's good about it for them. Okay, so that might help. And then another thing to remember is the default position. If it's difficult to find something good about your partner's point of view with regard to this issue, what we'd like you to do is go back to that more global view of your relationship overall. You've worked out issues in the past. You had a wonderful wedding day where you had hopes and dreams and you're living some of them out. Those kinds of things, talk about that. Remind your partner about that, say that out loud.
Another one might be public displays of affection.
It might be. Some of us have different opinions about that.
I like public display of affection.
Yeah, and he definitely knows I have a different point of view on that one, yeah. Uh-huh.
Now, we'd like you to talk to your partner. We want you to talk about what it was like to find a good in a disagreement that you have. So take a minute to talk together about that now.
Turn and talk to your partner about this exercise.
Now what we'd like to do is continue in your workbook with the guidelines for expressing yourself. Guideline number 2 says, speak from your own point of view rather than what is right or good or normal. Use words that show respect, not judgment. And change you messages to I messages.
This refers to how you say what you say. A you statement or you message is a statement that carries blame, fault, responsibility for the problem, and it feels like an attack to the hearer. What do people do when they feel attacked? Defensive or? Counterattack. Yeah, we're coming back. All right, you ready to mix it up? Let's do it. So we don't want to provoke that kind of a response if we want our partner to really hear and understand what we're saying. So the way to switch that is to make it an I message. An I message carries the same core content, but in a way that owns the feeling being expressed without sending blame or fault to the person hearing. The hearer is able to hear the message because they're not defensive or they're not attacking back. So we have some illustrations for you where we take some unhealthy statements and we're calling that incite, like if you were to incite a riot, and we're going to compare that to saying it in a healthy way, which we're going to call insight. So we're incite to insight. So let's take a look at some examples on these video clips.
You never pick up your socks. You're so lazy.
Okay, ladies, take 10 or 15 seconds and clean that statement up and tell your partner a healthy way to say the same thing. Go.
Ladies, turn and talk to your partner.
Okay, what'd you come up with, ladies?
I would appreciate if you'd be willing to pick up your socks.
Nice,
I
okay.
would appreciate it.
That got
Yeah.
it.
So maybe something like, you know, I get frustrated, that kind of thing, or some feeling like that.
Yeah, let's see what the video clip came up with.
I get frustrated when you don't pick up your socks.
Okay. I get frustrated. Okay, that's an I message. Okay, fellas, you're going to do this next one.
What a lame idea.
Okay, fellas, take 10 or 15 seconds and tell your wife that same content in a healthy way. Go.
Men, turn and talk to your partner.
Okay, fellas, what'd you come up with? How can we say that using iMessages? Same content with iMessages.
I feel like there's a better way to do that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds fine. Anybody else?
I feel that's an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, okay, that could work. Now, there's a lot of ways to make this skillful, but each one of them is going to own what you're saying. It's my opinion. So let's hear what the video clip will show us.
I prefer something different.
Okay. I prefer something different. Nice and simple.
It's okay, you can have your own opinion. You know, I would like to do it a different way. I see it a different way.
Okay, ladies, your turn again. Let's have you clean this statement up.
You make me so angry.
Okay, 10 or 15 seconds, talk to your partner and clean that up.
And in terms of an I message, think about starting with the word I and constructing it that way. So begin with I.
Okay, ladies, what'd you come up with? Callie.
I feel upset.
Right, I feel upset. So she started with I and she's saying her feeling. Right.
That's good. Any other ideas? Any variations?
I said I feel very angry inside when you do that.
That's it. You got it. All right. Let's hear what the healthy clip shows us.
I feel angry when that happens.
Okay. That's it. That's an I message. All right. Let's do one more for the guys. Take this clip and let's turn it into an I message.
That's not the way it happened. What really happened was...
Okay. Tell that same content in a healthy way. Fellas, tell your partner. Go. Okay, fellas, what'd you come up with? Lee?
The way I remember it was ...
Yeah, beautiful. That's good. Okay, anybody else had a different way of saying it?
Yeah, I said, I don't remember it that way, but I remember it like this.
That's excellent. Beautiful. Okay, let's check out the clip.
I remember it differently. It seemed to me what happened was...
Right. And one more for the ladies. Okay?
A good husband would want to hear what his wife has to say.
Okay, ladies, tell your partner in a skillful way. Okay, ladies, what'd you come up with?
Tia.
I would appreciate it if you listened to me.
Yeah, I would appreciate it if you'd listen to me.
That's nice. Okay. Anybody else?
It means a lot to me if you would want to listen to me.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, and let's hear the cleaned up clip.
It would mean a lot to me if you would listen to me.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
she
good.
got it, huh? Yeah. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of different ways to express yourself in a healthy way. So that's why we wanted to get different responses from you, because there's a lot of different ways.
Okay. Gentlemen, clean up this one.
Tom's wife makes him a hot breakfast every morning.
Okay, men, tell your partner that same content, but say it in a healthy way. Okay, fellas, what'd you come up with? Andy.
I'd appreciate it if you cook for me every once in a while.
Okay.
Once in a while, he kind of made it more realistic.
Now that's interesting because what he said was skillful, but he could say that with a tone of voice that would make it unskillful. Don't you think?
Yeah. I'd appreciate it if you'd cook breakfast for me once in a while.
Yeah? So there's a different message there, right? But the way you said it, I think, was skillful. Others? Lee.
Baby, I just love when you make me breakfast in the morning.
There you are. All right. Let's hear how this fella changed it.
It would mean a lot to me if you would make me breakfast in the morning.
So you get the idea. We don't say you can't talk about frustrations or anger or disappointment with your partner. We want you to make those statements to your partner in a healthy way so that they're open to hearing. And converting a you statement that contains blame and fault and converting it to an I message that contains what you prefer and your point of view makes all the difference.
And that sort of blends into guideline 3. Talk about your thoughts, feelings, concerns, and desires. So we're emphasizing feelings here because it's so often not included in our messages. And we want to express fully and honestly, and that does include our feelings. And there's a way to express negative feelings with honesty and compassion. Remember the values, openness and honesty with caring and compassion. And a sub-point to remember is that feelings are usually single words. When you think about that feeling word list we've provided, that chart of feeling words, they're all single words. So when you express a feeling, you would be saying, I feel blank, and one word would express it. So as you're trying to construct your messages, just think about one single word that would help you express your feeling. And another point we want to make is don't confuse thoughts with feelings.
It's very common in our culture, but let's hear a couple of clips.
I feel the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Okay, so that Packers fan, is he expressing a feeling?
No.
No, that's not a feeling, is it? And there's a cute little way to test that out. If you can substitute the word think in place of the word feel, and the sentence still makes sense, then you're not talking about feelings. And it happens all the time. I feel the Congress is doing a great job. I mean, we do that all the time in our culture, but it's confusing because we're not really talking about feelings in many of those cases. So let's hear it if he replaces with think and see if it makes sense.
I think the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
It seemed to make sense, right? So he hadn't expressed a feeling. That was not a feeling. All right?
I really believe that the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
You never know what you're going to find on these videos, huh? Yeah. We had a lot of fun filming that. Yeah. It's common in culture and it's common in relationships, but it isn't good communication. It doesn't help us to understand each other well. So let's take a look at another clip that articulates that point.
I feel that spending time together is important.
Thought or feeling?
Thought.
Feeling.
There's something in there that is a feeling, but if you can replace that sentence, the word in that sentence, the word feel with think, does it make sense?
Let's try it.
I think that spending time together is important.
Make sense? Okay. So there was feeling that was attached to that statement that she made, but the statement itself was a thought, a belief, an opinion. Okay? Yet she used the word feel in that first clip.
Now, what feeling might she have if they were to get a chance to spend time together?
She'd feel happy.
Yeah, feel happy. So let's look at what she does when she includes a feeling in her statement.
I think that spending time together is important, and I think it would help us to feel closer.
Feel closer. So there's that feeling, feel closer.
Both elements are there. She named her opinion and the feeling.
Now the final guideline is something to avoid, and that is trigger words. Trigger words. Now we have some common trigger words that we'd like to make sure that you write down, and those words are always, and then you can guess the other one, never. So always and never are always a problem, so never use them, okay? Because if someone says, you know, you always do such and such, what are you likely to be trying to think of?
Instances when you don't.
Yeah, 3 years ago there was this one time, right, that I didn't, yeah. So what it does is it triggers that kind of thing in your partner, and instead, think about other words you can use to describe what's really happening, which isn't exactly always, but maybe frequently, or not as much as you'd like, or something like that. How do you feel if someone labels you as uncaring, or your idea is ridiculous? Maybe you have particular personal trigger words that trigger you. We've got some examples to show.
You should cut back on junk food.
Okay, what might be some trigger words that are being used there?
Should.
Should. Right, that's advice giving. That's a problem. That's often a trigger word. Any other trigger word that you can think of in there?
You?
Well, starting with you and that you should, I think could be a problem. Now, anybody here like fast food? Okay, so how do you like it when you're told, oh, it's junk food? Could that be a trigger for you?
It's an insult.
Right, so calling somebody else's preferences junk food could trigger someone. So that could be a personal trigger word for someone. Let's watch what he does to clean that up.
I get concerned about your health when I see you eating food like that.
Right, so he actually used an I message with a feeling. He's concerned about your health when I see you eating food like that. So he even removed the word junk food so that it didn't trigger his partner. Let's watch another one.
You never want to go anywhere with me.
So what do you notice in there? What are some trigger words maybe going on?
Never.
Never. So you never want to go anywhere with me. Her partner's going to be saying, well, there was that time 5.5 years ago I took you to McDonald's. So how can we restate that skillfully? Anyone have an idea about how she might be able to express that feeling that she has? Yeah,
I wish you'd take me out more.
Yeah. You see how that's not an attack? That's just saying, I wish you would take me out more. Let's see what she does with this in this clip.
I'd really like to go to places with you more often.
Mm-hmm. Right, and in your workbook, in the appendix, we have a chart labeled Insight to Insight, and it's a reference page where we have common statements that might incite your partner to be defensive or attack, and then a way to change them into messages that provide insight into your point of view. Another couple of quick tips are ask for what you want. Actually name what you would like your partner to do rather than hinting. For example, if I said, you know, I heard that Adam and Sarah found this really great Thai restaurant nearby, and it wasn't expensive and it wasn't very crowded, and you know, they said it had really good food.
Oh.
Now, you all are reacting because why? What was really my message there?
You wanted him to take you to dinner.
I wanted him to take me to dinner. Did I ask that? No. And so what we need to do is take the responsibility to actually ask for what we want and say it out loud. So I needed to say, and I would really like to go with you. And there's a risk to it because he may say, I don't ever want to get near Thai food. It's junk food to me or whatever. But I need to take that risk and ask for what I want. And I do want to make a point that with regard to gender and communication, many times women can read between the lines, and indirect communication like that is fine between two women. Now, if I were, Melanie, if I were walking in the mall with you, and we're walking along and we're heading to the department store sale, but I say to you, oh, there's that new coffee place. I heard it has really good coffee. What might you say to me?
You want to go try it?
Yeah, because she knows I'm actually asking to go and take a side trip and go and have that cup of coffee. But I say it in an indirect way. And when women talk to each other, they know how to request in an indirect way. And she would read that and I would say, oh yeah, what a great idea. Yeah, that's a good idea, let's go. So I'm not saying that you always have to get direct and even blunt. I'm saying that when I'm communicating with someone who's not understanding me, it's my responsibility to be clear and direct. And then another final point is be specific when you name what you want. If I said to Don, well, boy, I wish you showed you cared more, what does that mean to him? He doesn't know what he needs to do to show he cares. What if I changed that and said, you know, I would really like it when you come home that you would go and find me in the house and give me a hug and a kiss. And that would be, okay, no, I didn't do that. That's just my example. So name specifically what you would want your partner to do, and that will really help them understand.
Now let's put this all together. Now, we're going to have you do an exercise where you practice expressing yourself using guidelines in an almost real-life situation. We're going to ask each of you to think of a real issue or conflict that you have with someone other than your partner, and not your partner's family. Okay? It can be your mom, but it can't be your partner's mom, not your in-laws. All right? And it can be a current or it can be a past issue. So often we fly off the handle, fling out our attacks, maybe even avoid the confrontation, even though we know it should be coming. So we're going to do an example for you so you'll get a chance to see what this is like, and then you'll be doing this together yourselves. I have a friend who has left some sarcastic messages on my voicemail if I don't respond quickly enough to his phone call. He leaves me a message. He'll call one afternoon and then call the next morning if I haven't called him back and leave a kind of a sarcastic message saying something like, well, I guess some people aren't important enough to get a call back. And I usually avoid the conflict and I call him up and talk with him and I say, no, gosh, I've been busy, it wasn't that. But it's happened several times now. And you know, it's gotten to the point where this last time I just wanted to explode. I don't want to treat him badly, but I don't want this to go on. So Alex and I are going to model, she's going to be listening and I'm going to be putting together a conflict statement that I would give to this person. Using this conflict statement role play is a great way to take a real life issue and prepare for a respectful talk with that person. You can get yourself together and let them know how their behavior affects you, telling them what you wish was different. And by doing that, we're actually practicing speaking the truth in love.
So Don is going to speak to his friend, and I'm going to just listen. I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to kind of listen to how he talks to his friend. And then afterwards, I'll give him some feedback. What might have caused some defensiveness? What kind of words maybe should be avoided? Or, you know, maybe some additional feelings he could have added. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of coaching of him after he does his full statement. So the first thing he has to do is think before he speaks, so I hope he's done that. And then he wants to kind of approach his friend, and he might say something like,
Roger, is this a good time for me to talk to you about something that's kind of been bugging me for a while?
and the next point in your workbook is start by telling your partner what's good in their point of view or what's good about your relationship.
Roger, I really enjoy being with you. I especially enjoy it when we go out to breakfast and have those real deep talks. They mean a lot to me.
And then he's going to talk about from his own point of view. He's going to tell his thoughts and feelings and concerns and desires, and he will be avoiding trigger words.
What I want to talk to you about, Roger, is when I heard your voicemail complaining that I hadn't called quickly enough, I really had some frustrated feelings. I was bothered by that. I've been under a tremendous workload lately, and my schedule is just really crammed, and I like talking to you, and I like getting together with you, but I'm not in a position where I'm able to respond right away when you call. Sometimes, because of my schedule, it's going to be a while before I get back to you, and I don't want you to think that that's something about you. It's really all about my schedule.
If Don had gone on in the example, he could have asked for what he wanted. Something like, Roger, if I don't call you back, please wait a few days before checking back with me. That'll help a lot. And so then I would do some coaching or give him some feedback. Anyone have any comments about what Don said? Anything that might have triggered this Roger if he heard that?
Coach me. If you were Roger, would that have bothered you?
Well, I think the word bothered you might offend him a little. He might be a sensitive guy, so he might think, oh, he was bothered enough and he thought about this enough. But I think you rectified that when you said, you reassured him by saying, it's not about you, I'm just busy. So you also reassured him because you knew he was acting out of maybe some of his own insecurity.
Yeah. So if I'm making a complaint to somebody, I'm talking about a problem, something that we disagree about, it may be that a negative response happens inside. When Alex and I fight, even if we fight skillfully, it doesn't mean I don't have some strong negative feelings. That happens. So I wouldn't expect Roger to not be having some kind of uncomfortableness or something negative as I'm telling him that. But my responsibility is to tell him in a way that's healthy and kind and caring and nurtures the relationship. And that was what I was aiming for.
So this is just an example of someone who is taking a real life situation, and this is what you'll be doing. And you'll be putting yourself into reality because it's your situation, your real life situation, and trying to come up with a way to ask for something, to make this complaint and ask for something, some changed behavior on their part, and put it all together and then get your feedback from your partner who will coach you on how that went.
So we'll assign you this exercise. First, one partner does that statement, the other gives the feedback, and then you switch, and the inverse happens. If you finish before the time is up, start with another conflict role play. Think of another person, another situation that you can practice with, because we want you to use all this practice time. Okay? We'll let you know when we're halfway through, we'll let you know when there's a minute left, and then the music will come up when it's time to come back together.
And we would like you to turn knee to knee so you can focus on each other as you do this exercise.
All right, ready, go.
Get knee to knee with each other and start the exercise.
You're halfway done. If you haven't already done so, it's time to switch roles.
You've got just one more minute. Turn back to the video. It's time to start again.
So how was that for you? What we'd like you to do is, in your workbook, take note of which of the guidelines were most difficult for you to follow. For instance, maybe it was difficult to talk from your own point of view. Maybe you had difficulty including your feelings. Perhaps there were some trigger words that slipped in as you were talking about this point of view you had and your feelings. Or maybe it was difficult to ask for what you want. So just take a few moments and mark the ones that were difficult for you.
On your own, complete the quick debrief.
Okay, now we'd like to hear from you what that experience was like with this exercise. What difficulty did you notice? Lee?
Sometimes it's hard for me to articulate my thoughts, usually without being offensive. And sometimes I tend to beat around the bush too much, and then they get the wrong idea.
Great, so you noticed that as you were trying to talk from your own point of view and talk about what was important to you. Wonderful.
For me personally, whenever I deal with conflict or discussing things with people, I tend to kind of beat around the bush. I like to kind of water it down so that it's not so offensive, but then I tend to, when I do that, I'm not direct enough, so they might get the wrong idea, or the point isn't really hammered home as hard as it should. So this kind of help to be more direct and specific about the things.
And remember, when you name your feelings, that's not an attack. I feel frustrated when that happens. It's not an attack on the other person. It's truthful and it's caring. So including that can help you, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I tend to be a little more assertive and direct. I don't like to beat around the bush. I say it how it is from my perspective. And so for me, it was difficult to not use trigger words because I'm so used to approaching conflict with a direct tone, trying to get my point across as quickly as possible. And sometimes I don't consider the other's feelings.
Yeah.
Right, so there are some guidelines that might resonate more with you than other guidelines. So focus on those. If trigger words are difficult, then start becoming more and more aware of those trigger words. If talking about your own point of view is difficult and being a little bit more direct is something you want to work on, then start working on that. Now we'd like to have you talk to your partner about what that exercise was like and what was easy and what was difficult for you.
Turn and talk to your partner about how this exercise was for you.
Okay, we need to pull you back together. We gave you a little taste of constructing a statement that is healthy and skillful when you have some conflict or some rough feelings. We hope you can begin to practice that and put that together. We have one other exercise in this session. We're talking about expressing yourself. Now we want to talk about expressing yourself to God. Expressing yourselves as a couple to God. Often we neglect that. There are different kinds of closeness we can have with our partner. Physical closeness, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we may be close to each other in some areas, but we may be distant or even cut off in other areas. Praying together can bring us closer to each other. So turn in your workbook to the couples prayer exercise. And we'll take a look at prayer. First, we'll look at some truth from Scripture. God loves us and wants to hear from us in prayer. In the Psalms, He says, "Call upon me." Jeremiah, "You'll seek me and find me." In the Psalms, "Come and talk with me." And in Philippians, "Tell God what you need and thank Him." He wants to know us, and He wants us to know Him. In Jeremiah, "Those who boast should boast in this alone, that they truly know me." And again in Jeremiah, "I will give them a heart to know me." In John, "The way to have eternal life, to know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ." He knows what you're thinking, and He knows what you need. In Chronicles, "For the Lord sees every heart and knows every plan and thought." In the Psalms, David prays, "You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it." In Romans, "We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us." And the last point is not fancy words like phony religious people might use. That makes God mad. In Matthew, Jesus said, "Don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly where everyone can see them." And again, Jesus said, "When you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. So these scriptures were pulled out to kind of condense the idea that when we express ourselves to God in prayer, He wants us to be real, He wants us to be honest, He wants us to be transparent. So let's do a couple's prayer exercise together. Sit close to each other, and you can hold hands if you would like to. You don't have to. And I will give you the prompt aloud that I would like for you to pray silently about. And I'll pause between each of the prompts and give you time, each of you, to pray silently during that time. We welcome all of you to do this. It doesn't matter where you're at on your own personal faith journey. If this feels uncomfortable to you in any way, we suggest that you ponder, meditate on the meanings of these prompts. Okay? So I'll give the prompts, and you'll be praying silently together as a couple. Let's pray. Silently, tell God what you need help with. Silently, tell Him what you wish was different. Silently, tell God what you hope for. Silently, pray for your relationship with Him. Silently, pray for your relationship with your partner. Lord, help us to find closeness with our partners in all areas, in all of those different parts of us, and to have the kind of relationships that you designed, that you intend for us, and most wonderfully, that you promise to help us have. In Jesus' name, amen. Mm-hmm. So, we'd like for you to take a minute or two and talk with your partner about this prayer exercise. This may have been new to you. It may have felt awkward or uncomfortable. It may have been wonderful and sweet. The purpose is directed at helping you as a couple to come closer in your spiritual relationship. So take a minute or two and talk to each other about how this exercise was for you.
Turn and talk to your partner.
All right, we got to bring you back together here and move on.
Right, now we're going to be cracking the code to a deeper connection by expressing yourself. So turn to your workbook. And we want to have you remember the guidelines. When you prepare to talk to somebody, think first about what's good. Start by naming what's good. What's good about your partner's point of view or about your partner or the relationship. Then speak from your own point of view and show that respect that you have for them, not judgment, not words of judgment. And then talk about what's important to you, your thoughts, your feelings especially, make sure you include those, your concerns, your desires, and avoid words that trigger your partner.
And cracking the code in everyday life. How can we take these principles and apply them as we live day to day? Several things. Include positives all the time. Throw those positives out to your partner whenever you can. It's a beautiful thing. Whenever you think of something good, tell them so they get to hear it. Don't keep it to yourself. What if you mess up? In James, it says, no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil and it's full of poison. None of us. So here's a solution that you can use in your day-to-day living. Offer to redo what you just said to your partner. If you say something and bang, you can sense, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I mean, we've all done that. You know right away, usually, oh, that wasn't good. I shouldn't have done that. The next words out of your mouth can say, wait a minute, can I redo that?
Don recently did that. I went into your office and you said something that was a little snippy, and I thought, okay, I'll just walk away, and I went back to my room, and then a few minutes later he came and said, I need to redo what I just said, and I had been thinking about it a little. So it was really a wonderful experience for me to realize he had thought about it, caught himself, came back and said, I have to redo what had just come out of my mouth.
And the other person needs to be gracious and give grace when that happens. Probably, like Alex said, she had been bothered a little bit by what I had said, and that'll happen if you say something that's hurtful or provokes an attack or provokes a defensive response. So that person needs, if the redo is requested, that person needs to be gracious and be willing to allow that to be redone. And it's a sweet way to not let something grow and fester and develop into something over a long period of time, but right away you can get after it and take care of it, like rewinding the tape. And if you're the one who has been offended, like Alex in our example.
Right, I was happy to give him grace because I've had plenty of turns at having to do redos. So I want to make sure that I return the favor, right?
So again, a redo is a handy tool that you can use on the run. Right? Next, we want to assign partner appreciations. This is something we enjoy in every class, and we'd like for you to turn your chairs knee to knee. Each of you give the other an appreciation, just the way we've been doing in previous sessions. Okay? Ready, go.
Turn knee to knee with your partner and start the exercise.
You're halfway done. If you haven't done so already, it's time to switch roles.
Time's up. Excellent job. Let's turn back towards Dawn and Alex.
We love seeing you giving those appreciations to each other. It's beautiful, and we're hoping that you develop into a regular habit of doing that.
Research shows us how our habits develop. Doing the same thing over and over again ends up developing these deep ruts or grooves in our brain. And what happens is, like this jungle road here, it becomes this well-worn path in our brain that becomes soon the only path that we can conceive of taking. So if we have a way of talking that's hurtful, or avoiding talking about issues that creates problems, and we do it over and over again, we end up with this pattern, this habit that's been created. And trying to change communication habits like that, when it's doing it so often, is like hacking a new path through that forest road. So there we have a new path that's begun, and it's small. And there's a lot of practice that it's going to take to make that pathway become wider than the old habits that we've been taking. But when you find yourself on that wide path and you're going down the wrong way, we've already taught you about a redo. What you can do is get back on track and go back to the new healthy habits you're building that are going to feel maybe awkward and unnatural at first, but will soon become a habit. And we have a program that helps you create that habit even more quickly.
We bring it into your everyday life, and you'll get text messages and or emails. It's free. There are 3 texts or 3 emails per week, and they're messages of encouragement, messages taken from the session that we've just completed. To speak the truth in love, or remember to listen in a way that shows strong interest. Good reminders that will help bring home what you've learned in these sessions. And the reminders run the length of the program, and you can opt out at any time. If you're getting the text or email messages and you decide you've had enough, you don't want to do it, you can unsubscribe when you're done.
So we'd like you to go to the website, CoupleTalk.com, to sign up, and we're happy to offer this to all of you. You've learned a lot about expressing yourself in this session, and we will continue cracking the code to a deeper connection.
Next session, we'll learn how to have a couple talk.
I just love this session.
Yeah, it was really a game changer for us.
To quickly review, with your words, you can either build up your marriage or tear it apart. There is so much power in our words.
That's why you need to think before you speak, so you don't blurt out things that tear your partner down and therefore tear down your relationship.
This session focused on the guidelines to expressing yourself, which starts with seeing the good in your partner's viewpoint and telling them what it is, especially if you're having a disagreement.
It is vitally important to share the good you see in your partner and the relationship, because any disagreement or conflict is a minor obstacle for the greater good in your relationship.
You also learn to speak from your own perspective and do it in a respectful way. The Insight to Insights page in the appendix helps you when you get a little stuck.
And if you do mess up and say something you shouldn't have, you can ask for a redo to repair what you said.
Don and Alex gave some great insights on the difference between a thought and a feeling. So often we confuse what we were thinking with what we were feeling.
This is incredibly helpful. If you can replace the word feeling with the word thinking, then it's not a feeling.
And the Feeling Word Families page in the appendix helps you better identify and share your real feelings with your partner.
And finally, avoiding trigger words and phrases. These will only inflame the situation.
Expressing yourself is easy with basic topics or light issues. It is quite another thing when there is a major conflict involved or a disagreement that could hurt feelings.
But thanks to CoupleTalk, we've been able to talk through some major issues that would have set our relationship back if we hadn't had these tools.
You are so right, Kyle. So take some time to review, reflect on the Making It Real section, and practice expressing yourself before the next session.
And don't forget to sign up for CoupleTalk on the go to receive text and email reminders.
Those are so awesome. They seem to come at just the right time. I can't tell you how many times I've been thinking about a situation and I get a text that seems to give me a little bit of encouragement that I needed.
I prefer the email reminders. They're short and help me remember new ways of listening and speaking.
I think so too. That's why I signed up for both.
So go to CoupleTalk.com and sign up. You'll be glad you did.
Our next session puts the first 3 sessions into a complete dialogue. You don't want to miss having a couple talk.
See you next time.